You are listening to New Theory Radio.
And now for the moment we have all been waiting for. And the Oscar goes to...
Nav Nanwa.
Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of New Theory Radio.
Special bonus
Special bonus
special.
Bonus special episode of New Theory Radio. It's Nav Nanwa at the movies.
Woohoo!
It's
what
myself.
year is this?
This is 2019.
No, I meant the year that we're doing this again.
This is our third year doing it, but hold on. There's some unique circumstances around this one. First and foremost, you are tuned into New Theory Radio, which is a show that comes out each and every Friday on iTunes, and is a show where we theorize on all things pop culture, current affairs, and everyday life. And this is a special bonus episode featuring myself, the host of New Theory Radio, Nav Nanwa, and my wife, Singh.
Hi.
And so pretty much for the last 2 years, we used to do a weekly Oscar review podcast reviewing the Best Picture nominees. We were supposed to do that this year as well on this feed, but somebody has a very demanding job and was out of the province for majority of January and February. We won't mention any names, but somebody on this podcast. And
You're so supportive.
And we weren't able to do it weekly. And we also were supposed to record this yesterday. We didn't do that either. So this is officially Sunday morning. So hopefully we get this out in time before the Oscars take place.
Better late than never.
Yes, I just hope people will check it out before the Oscars, because this could be their official pregame before
Maybe
the
they
red
want to
carpet.
watch it after the Oscars to be like, hey, we're Nav Nanwa right about any of it. And
Maybe.
then that could be their thing, like, you know what? They weren't, so we're not going to listen next year. Because we're clearly not the best critics here.
But you know what? This is a special condensed version of what we normally do every single year. Usually we pretty much review 2 movies per week leading up to the Oscars, 2 or 3, depending on the amount of movies that are nominated for Best Picture. And then we do a episode that predicts what's going on or what's going to happen at the award show. This year, because of timing, we're going to do something different. We are actually going to just go through each of the nominees and provide a synopsis as to what the movie was about, as well as our general opinion on our thoughts on each of the movies. We actually finished watching all the Oscar movies on Friday. And then we'll also provide some predictions on some of the other awards. I was thinking for sure the biggest categories that are normally looked upon during the Oscars as being the ones that are the most noteworthy, and that is obviously Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and as well as Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress. And then if there's any other ones that you're interested in that you think we should talk about, I
didn't like how you said noteworthy, because there's been a lot of backlash about that lately.
About it not focusing on other types of awards?
Well, yeah, did you not hear about how this year's Oscars, they are going to award editing and sound, I believe, when the show goes into commercials.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, so they're not going to air it. So this whole concept of noteworthy is very touchy right now.
That's a interesting thing that's happening. I honestly feel like there's just too many awards.
What do you mean? Do you know how much goes into making a movie?
Okay,
though?
but also in the era of content, I also feel.
This is not marketing, but
No, but realistically, because there's a lot of big sporting events or big events in general that go for a very long time. Would you be opposed if they were to do the Oscars over 2 nights?
No, I'm not saying that you don't.
Just so everyone can get their recognition and it's all on the same playing field.
The thing is, though, Oscars have been going on for, 91 years now?
91 years, yeah.
And if they've been awarding sound and editing during the show, why just change now?
And then,
right?
you know what,
you can't just pick and choose.
Yeah.
That's the issue that people are trying to
also,
raise.
it's funny you mentioned sound and editing, because normally in prior years, I remember when they usually do a pretty good job at introducing those categories.
Yeah.
Where you notice the sound in the editing. I remember one year they actually showed a clip and they really emphasized the sound of what was going on in that clip, and it made you appreciate what you're
It's
listening
a
to.
big deal. I mean, think about how many movies we've watched where you pay attention to sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really creates the whole dramatic feel. It provides the whole essence of the movie.
Yeah, it does.
So,
it definitely
anyway,
does.
I'm taking us off topic.
Before we begin, I just want to level set a little bit. A lot of interesting things have led up to this day. Number one, the Oscars don't have a host because there's this whole Kevin Hart fiasco that took place.
Man.
What else is
What are
noteworthy?
your thoughts about that? Do you even want to discuss that now?
We just live in a politically correct era now where you have to watch what you say, and anything that you said in the past will be used against you. And you know, again, I honestly, some people will still argue whether Kevin Hart actually legitimately apologized for it. I did think it was interesting that somebody as strong as an ambassador to the LGBTQ community, Ellen, stood by him.
She got a lot of shade for that.
Yeah, you know, some of the things that Ellen does is pretty questionable.
What?
There is an old photo of her and R. Kelly that was pretty recent that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Well, it's not like she knew what R. Kelly was doing.
Oh,
back
everyone in the
day.
industry knew.
I don't think so. You can't put that on someone else just because they took a photo together, right? Like, think about the situations that you may have been where you're like, I don't feel very right about this, but given the circumstances and the place where if you're at a big event, if you're in a meeting, you tend to do certain things just because you're in a given environment.
I feel like we can do an entire podcast on R. Kelly.
Yeah.
But anyways, Kevin Hart is not going to be emceeing. They're not having any MCs, which is
fine.
It's going to be interesting. You know, typically when award shows do this, they just have people fill in for segments, and normally, you know, some award shows that don't go the MC route, they do a pretty good job at choosing, you know, known personalities to carry the show. So it should be interesting. I'm predicting we're going to see Billy Crystal tonight because he's always been this legendary Oscar host, and I wouldn't be surprised if he pops up. No director, no female directors nominated for Best Director, which got a lot of slack. Remember, we did an episode about that a few weeks ago on New Theory Radio, and again, you know, it's that debate
that whole
around
trend, right? Well, it's not really a trend.
Well, it's the debate amongst
even we saw that at the Grammys, where last year, what was his name? He was like, "Well, women just need to step it up." Then Dua Lipa, when she accepted her award, she was like, "Well, I guess we stepped it up."
Well,
this
the
year,
Grammys were all women empowerment this year, which was good.
Well, yeah, but it just felt like I liked it, but then it felt over the top, as though they had to make up for what they did last year.
Also, with the Oscars, the prime debate here isn't, because it's a category we have to equally include every gender. It's the debate. Sometimes it's the debate around quality and whether there was any quality movies that were made across the board.
Well, they were made because there were female-directed movies that got nominated for Best Picture and Best Directing at other coveted awards.
Yeah, exactly.
Like BAFTA, the Spirit Awards, there were female-nominated directors there. Or wait, female directors that were nominated.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. That was one debate. Another interesting thing about this year's Oscars is the fact that Roma, which is a Netflix movie, is nominated for the most awards tonight. Yeah. Very fascinating. Just when you think about
Favorite.
Yeah, along with The Favorite. But Roma is interesting because it's just the whole Netflix tie-in, and
right.
the fact that, you know, for the longest time, there's been a debate around whether Netflix movies should be allowed to be nominated, and again, it goes to show how we are all consuming content and how things are changing. And you know, the fact that Roma was nominated for Best Picture, and even, you know, we'll definitely talk about it later, but the fact that it did have a bit of a theater run at a couple of theaters in Toronto that we've noticed, TIFF being one example, as well as also being premiered at TIFF, I think this just opens up the opportunity for more movies that are readily accessible. Like, I think I read an article saying that Roma might be the most viewed Best Picture
probably
nominated film, potentially winner,
because it came out in December on Netflix, right? And that was kind of with TIFF this last year in 2018. That was part of our decision making in terms of figuring out which movies we'd watch. And for Roma, we were like, well, it's going to be a Netflix, so why should we spend money? Same with The Kindergarten Teacher.
Yeah, Kindergarten Teacher, yeah.
We were like, I'm not paying $100 for a movie ticket.
It's
so
more of the
I'm
yeah,
just gonna watch it on Netflix.
and that's what really kind of separates us amongst like cinephiles who probably would pay the money. But it's interesting to your point. Yeah,
right, because they would want to see the actors, the directors know more about the story. But the thing with TIFF is, if you weren't a member and you hadn't scored the first 10 rows or even the first 20 rows for that matter, that whole experience doesn't matter anymore, right?
Totally.
So I'm not going to pay $100 just to sit up on the balcony
and watch a movie that's going to be
on Netflix when that's just my opinion.
No, totally.
That's what I would not put my money towards.
Yeah. We'll definitely get into TIFF because I think last year we did TIFF pretty well because two of the movies that we watched are actually in the Best Picture category.
We should probably get into the movies now.
Well, I think there's one more story that I need to just address when it comes to the Oscars. I'm trying to think. Oh, okay. And before we begin, talking about the Best Picture nominees, we do want to give some honorable shout outs to, I guess, one other movie that we feel got totally shafted.
And I have another one.
Oh, okay. Well, Anu has another one, but so maybe we should do one each then.
Okay.
So first movie that I would say that got totally shafted, and then I did not understand why it did get nominated for Best Picture. Also, because when I watched it, and I compare it to the other Best Pictures that I saw, I think the emotion and the quality of the movie and the cast and the story moved me way more than any of the movies that I saw for the Best Picture nominated films. And that was If Beale Street Could Talk, which is directed by Barry Jenkins. I thought that was a fantastic movie. I'm very surprised that it didn't get nominated for Best Picture. I think a lot of people were very surprised by that as well.
Yeah.
And it just actually recently, I think last night, it won an Independent Spirit Film Award, which is pretty much like
Best Director for it.
Yeah, he won Best Director. He also won Best Film. It's pretty much like the hipster Oscars.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's the biggest travesty is probably that movie not being nominated.
Film.
It was. I remember walking out of it thinking, "This is it." He got his second Moonlight, and unfortunately didn't get nominated.
Like you, I was very moved by it. There wasn't a second where I felt like I don't know why this is nominated, which I did feel like for the other movies that are in the category for Oscars. So I was very disappointed. I feel like If Beale Street Could Talk also got pretty shafted in the Golden Globes. So it got nominated for Best Picture, but not for Best Score, which was really annoying to say the least.
And that was the vice versa here, because it didn't get nominated for Best Picture, but the score got nominated.
Yeah.
The score is beautiful. It's by Nicholas Bertel, who actually also did the score for Vice, which we'll get into later. But what was your...
Guy is probably loaded.
Oh, it's definitely loaded. What is your...
So my...
shafted movie?
Other shafted movie... I like how we call it shafted.
Yeah.
But they just snubbed, right?
Snubbed, yes.
Shafted.
Snubbed, shafted, same thing.
Was... a movie with a great cast, a great female cast, but also a very fabulous male cast as well. It hit the theaters. It was also part of TIFF. It got great reviews. There were some scenes where I literally had chills, and I could not look away from the screen when I was watching this movie, and it was Widows. It was just like action packed, just characters. It had great suspense. It was a great thriller, to be honest. And there was that one scene in the beginning of the movie. I won't give it away, but where they met up in a gym with one. What's his name? He was in
Daniel Kaluuya.
Yes, Daniel Kaluuya. You know, there's a scene where he like looks this guy in his face, and he's trying to figure out whether or not he's going to kill him. But then the camera just like kind of does a full 360 around him.
It was very...
I was like, that scene itself alone is worthy of an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of like Dark Knight Joker kind of vibe. Yeah.
Did that get nominated?
Dark Knight got nominated. Well, Heath Ledger won an Oscar for his role after he died. But yeah, I think Dark Knight... I don't know if it got nominated for Best Picture. I don't believe so. That was back 10 years ago.
For me, it was Widows. I also felt like from a I believe it was adapted screenplay. The way it translated, I believe it was adapted. The way it translated onto the screen was very well put together. Like just there were different characters, but every character had their own story. So, and I tend to like those movies where there's different characters playing a role.
So no love for Brian Tyree Henry then.
Who's that?
Paperboy from Atlanta. He was in both of those movies.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I love him too. He's dope.
Yeah.
He has a really touching Wealth Simple commercial.
He had a good year though.
Oh yeah, amazing movie. He was also in
Atlanta. Or did you just say that?
No, he's in Atlanta, but he's in another movie, I think White Rick or something. It was like a
Black Klansman, maybe?
No, he wasn't Black Klansman. But anyways, I think it's time to get to the Best Picture nominees.
This better be like half an hour.
I know.
We're already 15 minutes in.
We're clocking in at 16 minutes. Okay, so let's just get through this because I want people to actually listen to this as their pregame before the big award show. First and foremost, when you actually saw the nominees, I would say very interesting choices. I think out of every single year that we've watched the Oscars together, this had to have been, to me, based on the amount of media coverage it was able to get, the most highly disputed Best Picture nominees, because there's a lot of movies in here that people are just like, why? There's a lot of movies that people are like, okay, they're only doing this for this certain reason.
Yeah.
And I think a fair or I guess an interesting nominee that we're going to start off right away is a movie that I actually predicted last year that it was going to get nominated for Best Picture, and it actually happened. And that's the Marvel Universe's own Black Panther, which was directed by Ryan Coogler and starring an amazing cast.
First superhero to be nominated.
Yeah, because I don't think The Dark Knight was nominated. And I'm also too lazy to check.
That's true.
But Black Panther, an amazing movie. I would say, last year, 2018, was all about Black Panther.
Yeah, so when did you watch Black Panther?
I watched on the day it came out.
Yeah, I know, but which month was that?
That was February. That was a year ago.
Wow. And when did I watch Black Panther?
A couple months ago, when it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I knew it was not as eager, but I don't regret it because
if anybody knows Nav, he's got a serious case of FOMO.
I have to watch it.
So he had to watch it. Didn't you watch like a midnight show as well, or something?
No, it was a late show. Oh my god, I'm actually just reading stuff on Wikipedia about Black Panther. Apparently, in 1992, Wesley Snipes wanted to play Black Panther. I never knew that, but that's hilarious. But yes, but this was a landmark superhero movie because, and again, I'm not going to get on a high horse regarding Black Panther because I think there's a lot that was done last year when it came to just the greatness behind this movie. But there was this story that came out last year that the Academy Awards wanted to release another category. It was almost like the best pop culture movie category, and everyone was just like, "Oh, they're only doing this so that they can give Black Panther an Academy Award."
No.
And then it got super backlash, and then they pulled back, and then Black Panther got nominated. For those that don't know, pretty much the synopsis here. I'm going to try to find a briefer one.
I don't think they need to know about Black Panther.
You think they know what Black Panther is about?
Yeah, everybody knows Black Panther. We should probably do it for the others.
Okay, fine. I guess we could.
Yeah.
But
if you haven't heard about Black Panther and you really wanted that synopsis, just let us know.
Actually, okay, there's a quick one here. After the death of his father, T'Challa returns home to the African nation of Wakanda to take his rightful place as king. Overall, I would say the cultural impact of this movie is phenomenal because it was the first time that we ever saw someone of color be a superhero that had such a prominent role, especially the cast itself.
Yeah.
The cast was of people of color. It was a very important movement, and frankly, there are people that feel that because of where the Marvel Universe is going, and the fact that we have Avengers Endgame coming out, and that which also means that characters like Iron Man and Thor and Captain America are going to be disappearing, that the Marvel Universe will now be built around Black Panther, which is pretty crazy when you think about
they've set a very
billions of
high
dollars.
standard, right?
Yes. And I think it's a fair direction to go in because it's a strong character.
Could you think there could be an Indian superhero now?
100%. I think there is. I don't know who, but there definitely can be. But it goes to show that now there's a superhero that really relates to colored children, which is great. And I think that's always been important to have that type of representation.
But I think this resonated with not just people of color, but everybody else too.
Yeah, and you know what?
But I think those who kind of related to it more personally, I think they were definitely very inspired by it, for sure.
They're very inspired, and Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director. Like, he's awesome, and I think also from a story arc standpoint, this was one of the stronger stories in the Marvel universe. I think when you think about...
Yeah, I agree, because every other Marvel movie that you take me to, I always fall asleep. Every single time.
For me, this is as good as The Dark Knight, just in regards to how strong the story is.
I was, like, clapping when Dark Knight was done in the theater.
Like, and I think I feel like Michael B. Jordan is such a fantastic antagonist in this movie. I'm surprised he never got nominated because he was awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't.
It's a well-deserved.
It's a well-deserved
nomination.
Yeah. I think there is a bit of a political overtone here where I don't see it winning
It's
Best
not
Picture.
Gonna win. Yeah.
I feel there are still some purists within the Academy that will never give a superhero movie a nod like this, but it's good that we see it finally being included.
You know what would be a great category for the Oscars to consider? Best cast.
Best cast?
Yeah.
That's been talked about for a long time.
Right? Because I think there's another award show that does have that award category. Mm-hmm. And I think for the Oscars, that's fantastic.
SAG Awards do it, because Screen Actor Guild's award.
Oh, perfect, yeah. Because I think movies like Black Panther, Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
Do you remember like that list of like people?
Yeah, we're in it. It's insane.
It was insane, and that cast was just so strong. Like, obviously, they're not portraying. They're not. Their full characters not there, but their voices are so familiar, and the way they act is through their voices, right? So, especially
when you think about a cast can make the other actors better.
Totally.
Especially when you're working with such amazing people. So I think that's a fair...
It is important, for sure.
That's a fair suggestion when it comes to potentially having an award like that in the near future.
Yeah.
So the next movie that we are going to briefly chat about that's also nominated is Black Klansman, directed by Spike Lee, who's a fantastic director. And again, this is the incredible true story of an American hero. It's in the early 1970s, and Ron Stallworth, which is played by John David Washington, the son of Denzel Washington, is the first African-American detective to serve in the Colorado Springs Police Department. And he pretty much infiltrates and exposes the Ku Klux Klan. So this movie also stars Adam Driver, also stars Topher Grace. It just so happens that Anu was recently binging That 70s Show on Netflix, and then when she saw Topher Grace show up as the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, couldn't help but laugh. This was for me. I like this movie a lot because I've always been a big fan of Spike Lee, and with Spike Lee, you never know what you're going to get because there are times where he'll knock it out the park and he'll come up with a great movie like this or like Inside Man. Mm-hmm. Then there are times where he'll release something that's like very much kind of derived on what his interests are when you think about, She's All That. Sorry, not She's All That. She's Gotta Have It. And some of the other movies that he makes are very New York centric. And then you have like total bombs like Old Boy that just don't go anywhere. Yeah. So I think...
actually didn't know any of the other Spike Lee movies.
Really, eh?
I don't think I've watched any of them except for Black Klansman.
Well, you watched He's Gotta Have It, the show on Netflix with me. So that's based on a movie. You did watch it.
You binged it without me.
No, you watched some of it.
So I didn't.
But anyways... losing my voice here. I think this was a great movie. I thought the story was strong. I thought the cast was also really good. I never was bored during this movie. I think the actual fact that they were willing to tell this story and also relate it back to some of the bad things that we are seeing currently in the United States when it comes to race was very important. And for me, being a longtime fan of Spike Lee and someone that really appreciates his work, I was just happy to see him back in his element again. Yeah,
this is like a great comedy. It almost had it almost had a flair that was similar to Three Billboards Outside Ebbing.
Yeah, it's like a dark comedy.
Yeah, it was. Well, was this dark comedy? I felt like it was more so.
Well, it wasn't like it wasn't like your normal comedy. Well, actually, it's described as a drama / crime, but there was some great moments in it.
I think it was more a comedy than drama / crime.
I can see how there was a bit of a comedic influence in it.
Yeah.
Typically, when Spike Lee makes a movie, he does have a bit of a satire look at things.
Yeah. It was a great movie. I also think that if you guys do watch it, just watch the way John David Washington walks, because he walks exactly like Denzel Washington, and it freaked me out.
This was the first time I've seen his work, and I know he's been in Ballers, the HBO show.
Yeah.
And I never watched that. I never watched Ballers.
I mean, Denzel Washington is Denzel Washington, right? Like a legend. So his son probably has to. He'll just be in that shadow, right?
Totally.
But I think this movie was a great way for him to show that, you know what, I got my own way of doing this. I don't need to be like intense like my dad is always.
So do you feel like John David Washington will be like Colin Hanks to Tom Hanks?
No. I think Colin Hanks, great actor, but nowhere at the caliber of Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. Like, not even close. But you think
John David Washington...
But I think John David Washington can get to...
This was a breakout role for him.
A subpar level Denzel Washington. Because Denzel, he's a legend. Like, remember Fences?
Yeah. Denzel's Denzel. Like, nothing can ever top Denzel.
You can't touch him.
Yeah.
Nothing can touch him, right? And so it's... I think he's done a great job, and I would definitely watch another one of his movies again. It's
also great that Jordan Peele was one of the producers on this movie.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, so Jordan Peele's still killing it. So, if by chance this wins Best Picture, that's great on him and Spike as well. Next movie that we'll talk about is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is the story of the rock band Queen. I wasn't sure going into this movie if Anu
we avoided
was
this
familiar
movie
with
for
Queen.
The longest time.
Well, the thing is, Anu doesn't like it when I suggest watching movies, so she didn't want to watch this at all when it came out. And then as soon as it got nominated, she was willing to watch it. We watched it actually at the theater close to our apartment. And what was cool about it, and shout out to Cineplex Odeon, and hopefully one day you decide to sponsor our podcast. We watched it in a theater called Screen X, and it was a theater that had two screens on either side of us, as well as the one in the middle. And I thought this really added to the experience of the movie. I've always been a diehard Queen fan. Queen. We played Bohemian Rhapsody at the end of our wedding. Like it's legendary.
We did?
Yeah,
I don't remember that.
We did. You don't remember anything.
I have the worst memory.
But this was, this movie, I will say, and I think Rami Malek absolutely killed it as Freddie Mercury. I will say, the music is amazing, obviously, because it's Queen. I don't think this movie was as bad as people thought. I thought, I'd also credit to the fact that we watched it in a pretty cool setting in that special theater. But regardless, I think if you're a fan of Queen, you do appreciate the story. And
if you're a fan of even music too,
I
feel like the whole concert experience, it was similar to how I felt about A Star Is Born too, right? So it was just, you just kind of felt like you were with them the whole time, and you were enjoying their music. Even if you weren't a fan of Queen, you would have still loved it because it was a great performance. Exactly,
and it was one of those feel good movies. Obviously there is a lot that they could have done going deeper into the world of Freddie Mercury, the lead singer, and there's legendary stories out there about his crazy parties, obviously his sex life, his everything. But overall, it was a feel good movie. I think for the most part, with the band getting involved, obviously that's going to dictate the narrative, especially if this is ultimately like the penultimate statement the band is trying to make because of just where they're at currently in their careers, and the fact that hey, they're still touring, and I know this movie has actually allowed them to carry some more momentum into this year, and they're also going to be performing at the Academy Awards as well.
That's awesome. You hungry?
No, I'm okay. But overall, I thought it was good. I also feel this isn't Best Picture worthy though. I think I don't know. This is the one movie that I feel was a great movie,
if
but
Beale Street Could Talk
yeah,
and this,
like you
I
can't.
would
There's no comparison.
totally put
There's no
If Beale
comparison.
Street
Like
Could Talk into
when you
this
think
category.
about what Best Picture encompasses, I don't think this movie is
No,
it. But
no.
I do think that there could be an award later in the night for Rami Malek for this.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's definitely taken that away. And it's interesting though because this year with Best Actor Christian Bale and his performance, Rami Malek is like, "Sorry, bud, I'm gonna take this one this year."
Yeah, we'll get into Christian Bale and how nuts he is. The next movie is actually the one that we watched last, and it was the most recent movie. Well, it was the one that we most recently watched, and the last one that we watched in this category, and that is The Favorite, which stars Emma Stone,
Olivia Colman,
as well as
Rachel
Rachel
Weisz.
Weisz, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
Did you just totally butcher that name?
I might have.
Oh my god.
So The Favorite. Let's get your thoughts on it to start things off.
For once.
Yes, please.
Like you've been
I'm
talking.
losing my voice.
So The Favorite.
Give the synopsis.
Oh, okay. So The Favorite's based in the early 18th century. It's when England is at war with the French. And it's a story about Queen Anne, who is pretty frail, and she had a close friend called Lady Sarah, who's played by Rachel Weisz.
Yeah.
And they are very close, and Rachel Weisz ends up taking care of Olivia Colman, who plays the Queen, and really is kind of her right-hand woman in terms of making all the decisions related to war, just given the state of her health. And Emma Stone plays the role of Abigail, who is a servant in the palace, if I can call it that, where they start to she starts to form a relationship with the Queen, which ends up becoming the biggest jealousy game of all time, right? And so the Queen kind of goes back and forth, but she's very strong in her ways in terms of what she wants, and she demands power and she demands things when she needs it, but then she also relies on both Lady Sarah and Abigail to comfort her and to be there for her when she needs it.
It's a fascinating story because when I didn't know anything about this lineage of the 18th century, royal family, but when I first saw the trailer,
Commercial.
I was gonna say commercial. I always call trailers commercial for some reason. I thought it was more so a story around the Queen and two apprentices.
Yeah.
And just similar to anything you'd see in the workworkplace.
Yeah,
or
you didn't quite predict what you were.
Yeah,
going to
when we
see.
actually watched it, we won't give it away on here, but when we actually watched it, it was way more than that. If you can probably get our hint from there, but yeah, it wasn't a bad movie. I couldn't get into it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, you're on your phone the entire time.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that we watched it at home. Yeah. But it was good. I think the performances were strong. Does have, next to Roma, does have 10 nominations. This does feel like an Oscar-style movie.
Style, Oscar-worthy. Just from costume design, makeup, I think that's where... So when we talk about movie making, that's where this movie has picked up all of its nominations, right? Like everything that goes into making a movie is what made this an Oscar-worthy movie.
And historically, the Oscars love these period-style pieces. Like think about Shakespeare in Love.
I love period-style pieces.
Think about what's that one? Well, not the Queen, but there's another one that I think Cate Blanchett was in, where she played Queen Victoria.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking
they
about.
love these colonial style movies. Yeah. So I don't know.
Even the dialogue was very, it was very specific to that.
It was
that era well. Just the way they would interact with each other and the words they would use to when you think about the more commonly used swear words these days. Yeah. None of that was used in the movie, but then. They were almost actually more vulgar in the 18th century.
They were definitely vulgar. And, this movie goes to show how strong the three leading female characters were,
Oh,
which is
they
also
were-
great too.
They were fabulous.
Yeah, and they
This
all three of
was
them got nominated.
Yeah, and this was a role for Emma Stone where when you think about Emma Stone and everything that she has, everything that she has.
Sorry,
Where'd you get that from?
I don't know, it just came out of nowhere.
Oh God! So when like if you think about all the roles that she has played, she's always kind of had, very North American focused roles.
Yeah.
I think this was probably the first time she may have played a British.
Yeah, I've never heard her, and her British accent was pretty good.
It was really good.
I also, what was I going to say?
This was a strong role for her, and I think she delivered.
I feel like every year she's
Yeah.
in the gunning. She won Best Actress once, right? Did she win it for La La Land?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. Okay. So Emma Stone is just knocking it out the park
Yeah.
every year, and this is interesting because this is a totally different role.
Yeah.
Like you think about her previous roles in La La Land, Birdman.
Okay, Birdman, though, I think that's where I really start to take notice of her.
Yeah.
Because then when you think about her other movie, Easy A,
Yeah. Her
you
first
compare
one,
her... Oh, was that her first one?
I think it was her first one. Yeah.
Like, you compare her from Easy A to what she's been able to do now.
It's crazy.
Oh my god, she is super talented.
You're pretty much at the point when you see Emma Stone in a movie, already you assume it's going to be good.
Because she's at the point where she can pick and choose.
Yeah,
what
she is.
wants.
She is totally. Do you think this is like? What are your overall thoughts? Do you think this could potentially?
I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but it's definitely going to score some pretty big awards tonight.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the number. So costume design, hair and makeup for sure, and set design as well. Like, did you see that palace and
Oh, it
the
was beautiful. It
details,
was
the
beautiful.
wallpaper, the couches? Oh my god!
Did a great job recreating that era.
Yeah, and I honestly, if I had another profession, wouldn't that be like such a cool thing to do? Like,
Totally.
do research about 18th century,
And
what
they're recreating it,
and then recreating
using
it.
some of the architecture that's still around from that time. Yeah.
possibly, but man, that's an incredible feat, right? Like, I can't even like figure out how to design our 600 square foot condo, and they were able to design like this massive palace and the whole set. So yeah, definitely. I feel like Olivia Colman, she is nominated for Best Actress as well, but
Yeah,
I think
she has a
Glenn
good
Close
shot.
will probably take it.
Yeah. We're not at that point yet. Don't give any predictions.
Okay, fine. Jeez.
But should we move on to the next movie?
Yes.
Next one is Green Book, which
yay.
yeah, this was an interesting one.
It's a very happy movie.
Yeah, but it's been getting some criticism lately. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
So Anu and I actually had the honor of seeing Green Book during TIFF. We saw the world premiere, which means that we got to see Mahershala Ali, Viggo
Yeah.
Mortensen, who's the other woman we like, Viggo Mortensen's wife in the movie,
Linda
Cardellini.
Cardellini. Yes.
We got to see Octavia Spencer because
Yes.
she's
So
a producer.
this was a movie where we were literally sitting.
We're in the press area.
Yeah, we're in the press room. We were literally like 4 rows away from the main stage. So that was a true TIFF experience.
Yeah. The
for
one thing
us,
I'll
and
say
it was great.
about Anu during TIFF last year, she did a great job kind of finding tickets, and also I think in this instance, they probably released some of the press tickets because I remember they were doing 2 screenings at once.
Yeah.
They were literally going back and forth from Roy Thompson Hall to I think where we were at, which was the Elgin Theater.
Mahershala Ali was so close to me.
Yeah, anyways. Green Book is about Dr. Don Shirley, who's a world-class African-American pianist who's about to embark on a concert tour in the Deep South in 1962. In need of a driver and protection, Shirley recruits Tony Lip, a tough-talking bouncer from an Italian-American neighborhood in the Bronx. So this is really... the overall movie it's actually directed by Peter Farrelly, who him and his brother made such classics as Dumb and Dumber and There's Something About
Which is
Mary.
hard to imagine.
Yeah, so it's interesting that this was a bit of this was had a comedic tone, but also had a great message around friendship and racism. Some of the criticism this movie is getting is like since this movie's been out, a lot of criticism has come out. Number one. One of the main writers of the one of the main writers, what's his name? Let me see. Sorry, I'm just gonna pop by this because Viggo Mortensen plays
What are you
the
trying
father of Nick Vallelonga, who's one
Yes.
who's one of the producers of this movie. First
Based on
incident
a
that
real
came
story,
out,
right?
based on a real story. First incident that came out was Nick Vallelonga. There actually was
Nick what?
Nick Vallelonga.
Nick what?
You say it. Let me tell my point.
It's just
He had an
Why are you
anti-Islam tweet that came out.
Why are you yelling?
No, I'm just saying, he had an anti-Islam tweet that came out criticizing
Anti-Islamic?
Muslim. No, not anti-Semitic when you're anti-Jew, anti-Islam. Like he
Islamic.
was Islamic, and that was the controversy number one. So he apologized because of that.
Yeah.
Controversy number two is apparently Dr. Shirley's family has come out and said that this relationship was not real.
What?
Third criticism is that people who are just generally woke feel like
generally woke.
there needs to stop being this narrative. And I actually saw a really funny skit that Seth Meyers made about the so-called white savior narrative.
Yeah.
Where in every one of these racism movies, you always have a black protagonist that's getting saved by a white character.
Yeah.
And all is well in the world.
That's true.
And there's a lot of the one part of this movie that's getting a lot of criticism. And again, it's not like we hated this movie. I liked it.
Oh, I
But I
really
just want to
liked
kind of
it.
address it because the one part that is getting a lot of hate is when Tony Lip introduces Mahershala Ali's character, Dr. Shirley, to fried chicken. And it's an interesting narrative, and to the point where even Mahershala Ali doesn't like talking about this movie. Like, he hasn't done a lot of press around it, mainly because of just some of the blowback he's been getting around this. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I kind of tuned out there. No, I think I can see why it will be getting, why it's getting backlash, but I think the whole thing about fried chicken, that's true. Like, it doesn't originate from where people really think it does, and they don't understand the full story behind why fried chicken is so popular in certain areas, right? And I think it provided that. I don't know. I can't remember how they addressed it in the movie, but when he bought fried chicken, he's like, "Hey, you eat fried chicken?"
Yeah, your people eat fried chicken,
right? And it wasn't just because the pianist Mahershala, that was played by Mahershala Ali, is because he was such an elitist, and he's like,
he was.
"I don't eat fried chicken, right? Like I need a fork and a knife and like a plate, and I'm gonna sit down properly." Versus him being black and saying that he doesn't eat fried chicken, so they didn't quite address that. I couldn't tell.
Like, one of the main narratives around this is it's almost as if Viggo Mortensen's character was giving Mahershala Ali's character the permission to be black.
Right.
And that's what people was not rubbing people.
No, I agree with that.
And in every one of these movies, you're always going to see this type of criticism. There was some criticism actually with Hidden Figures with what's that guy's name?
The main director of
No,
NASA
well, it's the main relation between Taraji P. Henson and Kevin Costner.
Yeah,
where it was
director,
almost like
right?
Kevin, almost like Kevin Costner was the one that like ended racism at NASA, right?
Right, just by smashing down that.
Or even the coffee machine part. But,
yeah, exactly.
That was our podcast 2 years ago. Overall, though, I think you and I both agreed that. Well, okay. So I'm not going to dispute the performances of Viggo and Mahershala Ali. Both of them are amazing. I think it's great that Viggo actually got nominated.
Yeah.
For Best Picture, because I feel like he's always been one of those good actors. It just doesn't
I love Viggo.
get a lot
Remember
of
in
respect.
Lord of the Rings? God, he was so hot in there.
Anyways, actually, my sister was obsessed with him too, but he aged quite a bit.
Yeah, but he aged well. Yeah. I don't think like he didn't age well.
But overall, I think you and I both came out of TIFF. We didn't think this would be a Best Picture.
Yeah, so I think. It was a great movie. We had a lot of fun watching it. It got a standing ovation, but don't think it's Oscar worthy.
Next on the list is Roma, which you talked about earlier as being. I
think you should talk about how your journey behind watching this.
This
movie.
was a journey for me. I'm not gonna lie. Guys. As much as I like to believe in the popular opinion and and assume that things are good. It took me a while to really get into this movie. I'm not gonna lie, but I do like the director, Alfonso Cuarón. You know, he did make an excellent movie in Gravity a few years ago, which I really enjoyed.
Yep.
But outside of the historical significance of Roma and the fact that it is a Netflix movie that's nominated for Best Picture, Cleo, actually the synopsis of this movie, if you haven't seen it yet on Netflix, is Cleo is one of two domestic workers who help Antonio and Sofia take care of their 4 children in 1970s Mexico City. Complications soon arise when Antonio suddenly runs away with his mistress and Cleo finds out that she's pregnant. So, I'm not gonna lie, this movie was shot very well. I think cinematography-wise, it's beautiful. I think even if you press pause at any point during this movie, there's always going to be a beautiful photograph that gets made.
Yeah. I also wonder like what motivated him for it to be black and white.
I think Alfonso Cuarón has always just been a very experimental director. Yeah. Like, even if you think about Gravity, like, I thought that's still one of my favorite 3D movies I've ever seen.
It is, yeah.
But it's not easy to make a black and white movie. You have to
my
really...
dad was confused.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And shout out to Anu's dad for thinking this movie was based in Italy.
I bet you a lot of people thought that, just given its name.
Maybe.
And I thought that in the beginning, too, before I watched it, until they started speaking Spanish. I'm like, oh, it's based in Mexico.
Yeah. But the amount of accolades this movie has been able to rack up, the fact that it is probably the most viewed Best Picture nominated film, potentially winner at the Oscars, this feels like a Best Picture Oscar winner. I wouldn't be
surprised if it takes it.
And I just think about the ramifications coming out of it on how this movie will, if it wins Best Picture, how it changes the game regarding movies that are nominated for this category. Yeah. As well as what we consider theatrical releases, considering this was readily available on Netflix. And I think you're going to see more. And again, it was, a few years ago when Manchester by the Sea was nominated. Mm-hmm. It was a landmark film at that moment because it was produced by Amazon. Yeah. So Jeff Bezos was, if that had won Best Picture, Jeff Bezos would have won an Oscar. Mm-hmm. But I think this is a game changer of a movie. Even though it took me about 2 to 3 sittings to get through it.
Yeah, 3 sittings then.
Yeah. I'm not going to deny that it was a beautiful movie. The fact that it had no score was crazy. Yeah. Anu loves the airplane theme that's throughout it.
In the beginning and then twice at the very end.
Yes.
Where he just it just holds the camera at that one spot.
Exactly.
And you don't know whether the movie has ended or not, but you can just see the airplane coming by every minute or 30 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think this movie will likely take a number of awards. I think Favorite...
10 nominations next to the Favorite.
I think Favorite will likely take more, but Roma will win some of the highly coveted categories.
Yes, and you got to give a shout out to Yalitza Aparicio.
This was her debut.
Yeah. Also, funny fact, Professor Zovac was played by a very popular Latin luchador wrestler named Latin Lover.
Why do you have to bring wrestling into this?
Latin Lover. Shout out to Latin Lover.
Let this one event be pure. The one thing that we do, let it be pure.
But overall, it was an interesting movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it on Netflix. But yeah, there's no denying that it was a very beautiful film. Yeah. And definitely the front runner when you think of movies that are going to win Best Picture.
How many more movies?
We have 2 more to go. The next one is actually a movie that Anu and I also watched at TIFF. She was able to score tickets. Actually, the response and the demand for this movie was so great during TIFF that Anu and I actually scored tickets to a bonus screening.
Yeah.
And that is A Star Is Born, which is directed by Bradley Cooper. It's his directorial debut, getting his Clint Eastwood on, and stars Bradley Cooper as well as Lady Gaga.
Can you give your best impression of Shallow?
I love you, right? You know I really love you. That's all like Bradley Cooper
It's not
touch.
Shallow, but of the movie, I guess. But
People
that's
are
still very
sick of
good.
Shallow.
I know
Shallow
that.
is so
They
played
probably
out.
want it to be over and done with.
Shallow is the City of Stars of this year. Where
I'm the worst singer.
And I'll say this. One thing I really love about this category is I think the live scenes in A Star Is Born are fantastic, and the live scenes of Bohemian Rhapsody were fantastic.
Yeah.
And as being a big fan of live music, it was great to see that.
I just love
yeah.
how the music industry and the film industry are merging now.
Yeah, this
right?
movie's
They're just
produced by Live Nation.
Yeah, they're just very what's the word that I'm looking for? They're merging and they're very very much synchronized,
Yeah.
right? Because there's some powerful characters that come from the music industry that are making their way into the film industry now, like Lady Gaga, and they're doing a great job. And it's very rare because a lot of people are like, well, she's a singer. There's no way she can act. And look where she's now. Same thing with Jennifer Hudson, right?
Yep.
Singer, but now she's a great actress.
Yeah, Gaga killed it. It'll be interesting to see where her career goes
Yeah.
from here, because this was her movie. I think
This was a role for her, though.
Oh, totally. It was.
And didn't you tell me that before Lady Gaga, Beyonce was actually supposed to
Yeah,
play this
yeah.
role?
So Beyonce. So when this movie was talked about initially, Clint Eastwood was supposed to direct it, and Beyonce was supposed to play Lady Gaga's role. And this movie has been like A Star Is Born is obviously a remake of a bunch of different movies from over the last 50 years. Starting Judy, like I think Liza Minnelli, starring Barbara Streisand, Barry Gibb. It's been a movie that's changed this narrative over the last few years of being, solely around an artist who's somewhat at the tail end of their career with, taking on the mentorship role of a newer artist.
Yeah.
And yeah, like this movie had gone through different iterations and eventually ended up being Bradley Cooper, who made his directorial debut, which I thought he did a fantastic job. He also did a fantastic job acting in it. He sang all his songs. It's a great soundtrack.
His hair.
Yeah, he had a serious flow in it as well.
And that voice, oh my God.
I also think that Sam Elliott as his brother did a fantastic job. And I think Lady Gaga absolutely killed it. And I think this is going to be her standout role when it comes to more roles in movies. And I don't know. I think when I first watched it, I assumed this would have been the Oscar movie of this year that would have just cleaned house. I don't think so much now, especially when you look at the results of
The others?
of like the Golden Globes and all the other awards.
Yeah.
But maybe best song. I think
Honestly, when I watched it at the end, yes, I was crying, but I was still left with mixed feelings about whether or not it was as hyped up as people made it seem. Mm-hmm. It was a great movie. I would watch it once, but I don't think I'd watch it again. The soundtrack is just absolutely phenomenal, though. You have to listen it from the very beginning in sequence till the end, because I think the whole soundtrack of this movie is great.
Anu always has every single year one soundtrack from a movie that she bumps, and this was A Star Is Born, so
Yeah.
you can tell how sick of it I am being around it. And last but not least, the last movie that's nominated for Best Picture is Vice, which is directed by Adam McKay, which stars Christian Bale and his weight gain.
In his weight gain, seriously.
He needs to calm down. I don't see why in this movie...
Just put a fat suit
Yeah, I don't
on.
see why... Like,
Or why can't they find actors that actually look like Dick Cheney?
okay, so he did a fantastic job, though.
He did.
He did a great job playing a cold, stern Dick Cheney. And I actually, if you were a big fan of Adam McKay's style movies and, things like, obviously Anchorman's like a classic, but when you think about, what's the one about the housing crash?
Big Short.
Big Short. Like, when you think about his style of movies, they're actually really good in the way he puts them together. He has a lot of pop culture references. He also made Ant-Man as well. So, again, a little bit of a Marvel Universe tie-in. But, it was a good movie. I never really knew much about Dick Cheney, so I like that education fact and the fact that a lot of the things that were done during Bush's presidency, he had a big role in.
I like the documentary style and what the roles Not
Jesse Plemons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, Jesse Plemons was fantastic in this movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty unique.
If you think about it, the story could have been told several ways, right? But the fact that they had him, kind of almost do a documentary style view of Dick Cheney and the things that he did, and ultimately what the relation was between them, it was pretty incredible.
Sorry, I want to correct that he didn't direct Ant-Man. He wrote Ant-Man, but still, there's still a Marvel Universe tie in there. But yes, I think overall, I thought it was a good movie. This was another one that was highly debated as, hey, why is this being nominated for Best Picture? I think for obvious reasons, maybe it's a bit of an homage to the cast, because the cast was great. Like Amy Adams was fantastic in this movie as well.
Did she? Did she get nominated?
We'll find out in just a few moments because we're going to go through some
Best Supporting Actress.
Some
she did
other awards.
good. She did, yeah.
But again, to my opinion, this isn't Best Picture worthy. What's your thoughts?
I think it is Best Picture worthy. It was beautifully. I can't believe I'm using that word. It was very well edited. I love the directing, and I think the cast was good. You just described a movie about Dick Cheney as beautiful. I know, so I take it back. But the storytelling was great. It almost reminded me of the movie from last year, which was based on the English War, World War II. The guy won the Lincoln? No, not Lincoln. What is it called?
Wow, why is my mind blanking?
We're both so hungry.
I'm having a total
so
brain
hungry.
fart. There's a movie last year that was nominated. Oh, what? Churchill? Like the Darkest Hour?
Darkest Hour. It had that kind of a feel to it.
Yeah.
So I think looking at that movie and comparing it to Vice, I think they were very similar. So I think both of them...
Darkest Hour had a bit more... it wasn't a comedic tone, though.
No, it wasn't, but it was very much central to a particular politician,
like
a character,
style, yeah.
And his whole journey around making decisions, what he did, why he did it, and his whole story, right?
Yeah.
But I did like the comedic side of Vice, where they just started to play the credits at one point in the scene. I was like,
yeah. No, it was very tongue in cheek, which I think you can always appreciate when it comes to Adam McKay's movies. Okay, overall, let's go into some predictions. But Best Picture, who's going to take it?
I think for the Oscars, I think Roma is going to take it.
Yeah, I think Roma is going to take it too. I think
Roma or Bohemian Rhapsody, but I think Roma will take it.
I'm going to say Roma. Again, I think when you think about a Best Picture Oscar winner, I think Roma fits what they look for when it comes to a movie that a lot of purists appreciate. I think it's also going to be a bit of a game changer in the way that we consume movies, and the fact that it was on Netflix is going to be something that's completely different than usual. And I think it's going to be Roma's night. I think going to the next category, Best Director.
That has to be Roma, which is why I said for Best Picture it could be Bohemian Rhapsody winning the Best Picture, but for Best Director it's definitely Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, Alfonso Cuarón, and then the other nominees in this category: Spike Lee for Black Klansman, Powell Pawlikowski for Cold War, which I heard Cold War is awesome. I remember you and I saw a trailer for it when we went to go watch a movie.
Yeah, we wanted to actually watch it at TIFF. But
Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite, and then Adam McKay for Vice. But I think you and I are both in agreement that Alfonso Cuarón will win Best Director. Because
Best Actor, Rami Malek. Let's move on. There's no question there. The only person who could compete is Christian Bale, but Rami Malek's just been killing it.
Rami Malek's he's definitely gonna win. I feel for Christian Bale, and I hope he's able to he must have a good nutritionist and a good medical team around him.
He's just crazy.
Was he big when you saw him on the airport?
No. Okay, he had lost all of that weight by July.
So funny story. I knew actually saw Christian Bale and his kids and his wife
in France.
When
ended up being on the same plane as him, and I didn't talk to him because I'm the kind of person who doesn't like invading people's privacy.
She never snapped a photo for the gram.
I didn't snap a photo. I didn't go talk to him, even though I went right past him. I heard him talk. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna walk like I don't know you, buddy. Okay, I'm just gonna walk, and then I'm gonna go into row 25 while you're in row number 1 and just creep your hairline super hard.
Yeah, she pretty much was counting his hairs. But also nominated for that is Bradley Cooper, Star is Born. William Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, which I knew I actually watched.
Incredible.
He was awesome in that movie. And then Viggo Mortensen as Frank Vallelonga. Tony
Vallelonga.
Vallelonga, whatever.
The Italians are probably like...
Yeah, hopefully our friend Christina, when she hears this, doesn't get pissed at me. But yes, I think Rami Malek's gonna win because he was fantastic.
Okay, Best
Actress. You had. Oh, let me say the nominees first before you jump into it. There's Yalitza Aparicio from Roma. She was fantastic. She was great.
Aparicio.
Glenn Close from The Wife. Olivia Colman from The Favorite. Lady Gaga, Star is Born, and Melissa McCarthy, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Glenn Close has been killing it.
Yeah.
I think people are predicting that she's going to win. She's
win
like the Meryl Streep of this
a
year.
surprise would be Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I would say that. I think it's neck and neck between those two. I think it'd be pretty cool if Lady Gaga wins it because I think this would help further, continue to further cement her legacy just as an artist.
Yeah.
But Glenn Close has been killing it. The one criticism that Glenn Close's movie has been getting is the fact that it has been out for a while. Mm-hmm. But again, I remember it being part of TIFF in 2017, but then it picked up distribution so that it wasn't released in 2018. But another interesting category. Best Supporting Actor, we have nominees Mahershala Ali for Green Book, Adam Driver for Black Klansman, Sam Elliott for A Star is Born, Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me, and Sam Rockwell for Vice.
Oh, wow. Sam Rockwell got nominated? Oh, right. Because I didn't see that similarity at once, but then when he started speaking like George W.
Oh yeah,
Bush, I was like,
it was perfect.
Whoa,
And he
so
it was
good.
hilarious. His representation of George W. was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think
Mahershala Ali will take.
I think
this
Mahershala
one.
Ali will take it as well. He was fantastic in Green Book. He may not be promoting it as he once was, but I think his depiction of Don Shirley was pretty good, and he's a fantastic actor, and he continues to kill it. I think Sam Elliott would be interesting if he wins because I thought he played the brother really well.
But like,
and then the brother of Bradley Cooper.
Really?
Yeah, he's the older brother of Bradley Cooper in A Star is
They're
Born.
brothers? I thought he was just like
No, they're
close.
brothers.
Oh,
Wow.
I clearly missed that.
Yeah. Clearly, you can take a news opinions for a
Shut up. Move
bit of
on.
a grain of salt. But yes, I think we're both in agreement that Mahershala Ali will take that. And last but not least, the last award that we'll talk about is Best Supporting Actress. We have Amy Adams for Vice, Marina de Tavira as Sophia for Roma. I'm so bad with names. Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk, Emma Stone for The Favorite, and Rachel Weisz for The Favorite. I'm saying Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk because I think If Beale Street Could Talk should win every award that's nominated
It's been nominated for in the
because
Oscars,
fantastically,
yeah.
Regina King killed it. But I also feel like Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz also did amazing.
Rachel Weisz might win it between Regina King. This is a stacked category.
This is super stacked. Because even Marina Tavira in Roma, she was fantastic. And
like,
Amy Adams
when you
killed
compare all the Best Supporting Actors to the Best Supporting Actresses, I can't say the same for all the Best Supporting Actors where I felt like, you know what, they actually killed it. But every single female killed their role.
Yeah, that's true. Any other awards that you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. But yes, thank you so much for tuning into this bonus episode of New Theory Radio, Nav and Anu at the movies, discussing Oscars 2019. If you have any thoughts on the Oscars, do let us know. Feel free to hit us up on social media at New Theory Radio across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As well, give us a shout when you're watching the awards and let us know how you're liking them. We're expecting a massive windstorm here on our side of the city, so hopefully we don't have another blackout because we get that quite a bit when it comes to big storms in our condo. Because I know both Anu and I will be very cheesed if we miss the Oscars.
Yes,
this is our
but
tradition.
we're still going to eat all the cheese from Cheese Boutique.
Yes, we're going to go, actually right now, I'm going to go over to Cheese Boutique and buy some cured meats and some cheese because that's typically our tradition when it comes to the Oscars. And if anything, we'll probably end up eating that in the dark. But thanks so much for tuning in. And then remember, another episode of New Theory Radio drops on Friday. And please subscribe on iTunes and check us out on www.newtheoryradio.com. Any final words, Anu?
No, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you guys next year.
Yes, hopefully hopefully we'll be able to go back to the weeklies next year.
We'll see.
But we'll see. This episode worked out well too.
Yeah.
All right. See you later. Bye.